welcome to this first in our series of 2 workshops that we're running this week. My name's Andy and welcome to an introduction to Crayta. So today is all about complete beginners. We're going to have a look at getting started with Crayta. How do we build things in Crayta using the voxel tools, the voxel tools, the meshes, some of the effects, the sounds, all of that kind of thing. So firstly, if this is your first time experiencing Crayta, you can join Crayta lots of different ways. There's you can download Crayta on Epic Game Store completely for free and use it that way, or you can join Crayta using Facebook Gaming. So to join Crayta on Facebook Gaming, you can go on Facebook Gaming, search for Crayta, and you will find it there. We have an amazing community of creators and lots of lovely people in our Discord and on our official Crayta community group. So if at any point you get stuck, please don't hesitate to jump onto our Discord, discord.gg/Crayta. Head over to the workshops channel where there's going to be some support waiting for you there if you need it, if you get stuck with getting into Crayta or anything that happens during the workshop. Similarly, if you get stuck and you want to go on the Facebook group, you can also go on there. Just bear in mind that I'm unlikely to be able to stop and pause during this workshop if you're having difficulties getting into the game, but you can watch this back. This is being recorded, so you'll be able to see it and you'll be able to pause it and go back and refresh and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, just head into Crayta. The idea of this is that you kind of do it alongside me. So I'm going to be talking about some of the tools and the methods that we can use to make things in Crayta. And I'm going to be doing it in a way that hopefully you can sort of jump in and join alongside. Just learn alongside whilst I'm talking about it. And hopefully come out with some cool stuff that we've all made together at the end. You can see there's some people in here with me. So I'm joined by a few other members of the Unit 2 Games dev team. Unit 2 Games is the studio behind Crayta, and it's part of Meta as well. So you can see that we've got Eva, Joe Cray, Adsbag Bowl, Rinse, Crayta, and SF Crayta. So these are people that are going to be joining me in our workshop. I should say that after joining the groups, make sure you join the Discord and the official Crayta community group to get a hand on anything that you might need in the game, especially when it comes to creating things. Next week, we have the Mega Jam. So there's a Mega Jam starting on Monday at 11 o'clock, Monday the 21st of November at 11 o'clock GMT. And a Mega Jam is essentially a big game jam. So the idea is that you have 2 weeks to make a game, submit it to the Mega Jam, and be in with a chance of winning prizes. So there's about $200,000 worth of prizes to win. There's 30 prizes. So there's really good odds on you getting a chance to have your game played by people on stream, a good chance for you to maybe win a prize at that, and there's 5 top prizes of $20,000 each. So it's definitely worth thinking about that whilst you're participating in the workshops. Maybe it's there's some inspiration that comes to you while you're working in the workshops, games that you might want to work on. So yeah, that starts next week and that runs for 2 weeks. There's you can see where I am. I'm in the hub in Crayta. So this is probably the first thing you'll experience when you come into Crayta. You can see that there's games here. If this is your first time here, it might be worth going and exploring some of these games made by our fabulous community of creators. So if you fancy doing that, go and have a little play, see what else is around here, and yeah, get to grips with that stuff too. Cool. So I've talked a little bit about the Mega Jam. I've talked a little bit about who I am and who these people here are. So please comment away and get in touch with who you are, what you want out of Crayta, what do you want to see, what do you want to experiment with, and have you made games before and you're looking at Crayta for the first time as a great way to make games? That's great. Crayta is a game making platform and it's got collaboration at its heart. So the idea is that we make games together and then we play them all together. So you can sort of switch between making games, playing games, and doing it as a team, and all sort of collaborating and seeing each other. So I'm just going to get my stream up here so that I can see if there's any questions or anything going on over there. Great to see some people. Hello from everyone that's joined. It's great to see you here. Thank you for joining. Right, this is going to be, this is the hub, as I've already kind of talked a little bit about. Crayta is, it's a game platform. So we make games and we play games on here. So once you get into Crayta and you see this screen, if you want to start playing games, you can see that there's great places to jump into games from around the hub. If you want to start creating games, that comes from pressing escape to open this menu. And here you can see some of the more intricate details about Crayta. So we've got the play menu, which lists all of the great games that you can play. But you'll also see there's the Battle Pass menu. So a few times a year, Crayta has Battle Pass content. So people can customize their characters, and at the same time, creators get a whole bunch of different assets. We'll look into that in a minute. If you want to customize your character, head over to the Customize tab and you can choose your outfit. There's lots of different cool outfits you can get involved with. And don't forget, you can also customize your drone. I've got this like pearlescent spider drone, which is looking pretty awesome. So jump into customize your character and get involved in the Battle Pass. So without further ado, I think it's time that we start looking at creating in Crayta. If you're interested in whether there's any requirements for knowledge to join this workshop, absolutely none. I'm starting from complete beginner. You're not expected to be a game developer. You're not expected to have coded before. An interest and a passion in games and virtual worlds and experiences in 3D worlds is, fairly important in Crayta, but who's not interested in that? I definitely am, and I know that the team who are joining me today that certainly are as well. If you're asking about system requirements for your computer, you can play on Facebook Gaming, which means that you're playing completely online, and you can do that using anything. You can use, as long as you've got a fairly decent internet connection, you should be able to play on PC or on laptop or on mobile. One thing I would say is that if you are creating games, try and create games using a mouse. It's a little bit easier than a trackpad. You can still use a trackpad, it's just a little bit easier with a mouse. And creating on mobile could be pretty challenging. I would recommend using a keyboard and mouse rather than trying to create games on mobile. But you do you. You might choose to do that. That's absolutely fine. Just hello everyone. Thanks for joining. So what are we going to do today? So let's start by creating a new game. You can see on this create page, I've got a bunch of games that I've worked on, sort of prototypes, demos, just exploring stuff. There's only about 1% of these things that are actually published, and I think that's pretty cool to be able to jump in, create something, not necessarily publish it. But let's start with creating a new game. So there's two ways to do this. You can click on create a new game, or you can choose to remix a game. Creating a new game, you'll get a bunch of different starting points. So these are all templates or blueprints, we call them. And so they'll have these first ones with the little Crayta logo. They have got the game logic that you need to make a game. So you can jump into any of these and just start building a world. You don't actually need to jump in and code anything. After these initial Crayta ones, you'll see that there's quite a few other ones, and these are actually blueprints made by our community. And you'll see that some of these have game code, much like these ones up here, but some of them have hugely realized virtual worlds that you can jump in and you can code the game part of it. So if you're a coder, a programmer, and you just want beautiful worlds to play around in, you can use the blueprints for that. And if you love making beautiful worlds and you don't want to dabble in the code, then that's totally cool as well. You can use these kinds of blueprints. So there's blueprints kind of for everyone, and they all sort of fit different criteria. The blueprint that we're going to work on today is one that I've made and published. So this is if I type in workshop in the search, it should come up. Here we go. Crayta Workshop Sky Islands. So once you've got to the create menu, we've clicked on create a new game. and then we've searched in the search bar for workshop, and you'll see that there's this Crayta workshop Sky Islands here. I'm going to click on that. It's going to tell me a little bit about it. It'll tell me that it's by me. Hello, I'm Super Goose as well as Andy. And then I can click create new game, and this will then give me the opportunity to name my game. So I'm going to just call this Introduction to Crayta. You could call it something way more interesting than that if you want to, or you don't have to. You could call it something more boring if you like. It's up to you. Introduction to Crayta. I'm going to select an image. It's got some sky islands, so maybe this like foggy situation. Oh, this purple tree, that looks great. And then I click apply to choose the image. Once I've titled it and I've chosen the image, I can click create and enter, and that's it. Now we're starting behind the scenes. Crayta is now building me this virtual world. It's taking a copy of that blueprint, it's populating it, and all of that kind of thing. So another shout out for the if you're interested in learning more about Crayta, making more games, more virtual worlds, and making friends along the way, it would definitely be worth you joining our Discord, discord.gg/Crayta. You'll also find it's a wealth of knowledge. There's loads of very enthusiastic community members who have years of experience now in making games in Crayta. So here we are. This is the world that we're going to be playing around in. And you'll see that it's much like the hub. You spawn in and you can run around with your character. So you move in Crayta using W, A, S, and D on your keyboard, and you can jump with space and use the mouse to look around. So that's how we sort of navigate the world. And we start in this mode. But before I go any further and dive into all the tools and the cool stuff and all of that, I think it's always more fun to join in with other people and create something together. So I'm going to go ahead and invite some of my colleagues to join me in this world. I think it would be worth you doing that as well. If you're learning Crayta for the first time, grab a friend, grab a couple of friends, and yeah, you can do this too. It's really straightforward. All you need to do is you press escape when you are in the world that you want to work on. You go to the Create tab again, and then you click on Create Share Link. And then it will prompt you and say, are you sure you want to share this? Because if you share this, it means that anyone with that link can edit the game. So you just have to be a little bit careful about who you send that link out to, and just sort of agree to those terms by clicking Share My Game. And I understand reveal share code. So it double checks and make sure, are you sure you want to share this game? Once you've done that, you get this screen, and you've got this share code, which they can type into the use share code button if they like. Alternatively, and slightly easier, is this link. And if I click the clipboard button, that will copy it to my clipboard. If you're using Facebook Gaming, you might need to allow the permissions to use your clipboard. So you can do that if you press F11. You'll see there's a little clipboard icon with a line through it. So you need to click on that to allow clipboard permissions. Cool, so I've copied that link. Let me just go and send that to my my trusted colleagues over here. So let's do that. Cool. So I trust these people. I believe. So yeah, let's see what happens. So I've shared that game now, and I can see that they've got hold of that, which is awesome. So I'm going to go back into working the game just by pressing escape, and oh, they're already here. Wow. Hello, everyone. You're already here. That's awesome. Okay. So once you've got some friends and you want to start working on your game world, it's time to probably learn a little bit about the tools. So you can stay in this mode where we're walking around like this, and you can access all of the tools and techniques that I'm talking about, a lot of the tools and techniques that I'm talking about today from this mode. This is called basic mode because it doesn't have all the advanced gizmos and menus and stuff like that. And that's totally doable. There is a course that's been published on YouTube today that takes you through using basic mode to make a game completely from start to finish. So if basic mode is as far as you really want to go, that's totally cool. You can go and follow that course. If you want to dive into a little bit more depth, you can also join us in advanced mode. And to do that, just press Tab on your keyboard. And you'll see that this props your drone up, and there's a short animation. And so what advanced mode is all about is giving you the kind of the menu layout already there. So in the middle of the screen now is your viewport. And this is much like what you experienced when you were just kind of running around. And to use the viewport, to look around, click and hold right click in the viewport. If you click and hold, you'll see your mouse cursor disappears, and then you can move your mouse whilst you're holding right click, and you can look around. If you've used a game engine before, maybe, then you might, or 3D software before, you might be quite accustomed to using this method. It's a general convention in this kind of software. And that's what's really cool about Crayta as well. So some of the skills that you're going to learn in Crayta will stand you in good stead in lots of different softwares. So holding right click and looking around and moving the mouse around will look around. We can also move around. We can move our drone around while we're here. So we can do that using WASD. And you'll see you can move around like this. So W forward, S backwards, A left, and D right. And it moves in the direction you're looking. So if I'm looking, let's say I look over here at the sun and press W, it will move towards the sun. And you can see if I turn around that I'm going in this direction. So you're actually kind of flying around like this. So it's worth bearing that in mind when you're moving. If you want to move up and down, almost like a helicopter going up and down, you can press E to go up and Q to go down. So you have forwards, backwards, left and right using WASD, and then E to go up and Q to go down, all whilst you're holding that right click mouse button. It might feel a little bit tricky to start with. If this is the first time you're spending in a 3D software or in Crayta, it might take a little bit of getting used to moving around the world like that. But gradually and over time and a bit of practice, you'll find that it's second nature and you're not even thinking about it anymore. You'll be like, oh, I want to go over there. And then you'll just be over there because you're so used to it. If you're moving a little bit slow, you can increase or decrease the speed that you move in our settings menu. So press Escape, go to the little cog on the right-hand side up here, go to Input, or is it Editor? It's Editor. And then you can change this camera speed here. So the higher this speed, the faster you move. I have it set to the highest. It's really good if you're working on big worlds to set this to the maximum so that you spend less time traveling around the world. Similarly, if you're doing some finer detail, you might want to drop it right back so that you can move a bit slower and get in those tight places. So we've got right click and we've got moving around our world. Cool. So the purpose of this world here, this is actually a game. It's already set up to play. And if I want to play the game and test out the game logic, I can do that just by pressing F5, or I can press on this little play button up here. Worth bearing in mind, if like me, you've got a bunch of other people in the world with you, like these people here, this will take us all to preview mode. Oh, that's a bit loud for me. So this will take us all here. So if you do press F5, this will bring you all into that into this space. And so, yeah, just bear in mind, you might want to communicate with everyone else when you're about to do that. If you don't want to do that, I'll show you how to avoid that in a minute. But the game logic, what's going on in this game? So there's two main mechanics here. The first is this is a collection game. So you'll see these coins on the floor in this first sort of garden that you're in. And the idea is that you collect those coins. You can see there's a scoreboard on the left there. And it's who can collect the most coins wins, right? But it's one coin that's being generated at a time. So we can run around and collect these coins. That's one mechanic we have. And another one is that there's these portals, and if I run through this portal, it will immediately teleport me to one of these other islands. And so this is where it's great to have a few people if you wanted to jump in together. And what we're going to do is each of us are going to pick an island and we're going to turn it into our own garden, much like this first sort of demo garden that we have here. Yay, I won. Okay, cool. I'm just going to take a quick sip and have a read, make sure that everyone's okay. Looks like there's a couple of technical questions, but hopefully the moderators are on hand to help you out if you get a bit stuck. Let's have a look over here as well. Cool. Okay, so no questions at the moment. If you have questions at any point during this workshop, please don't hesitate to shout out. You can put them in the chat. You can also put them in the Discord in the workshops channel. If you missed how to join the Discord, it's discord.gg/Crayta. And then you sign in there. You have to accept the guidelines for becoming a community member, and you should be able to jump in there. Cool, so we've tested the game mechanics. It looks like SF Crayta's doing a little bit of juggling. Let's go back into edit mode now by pressing F5. So we tested the game there by pressing F5. We previewed the game. It got us a chance to move around the world and to explore the game logic that's going on, as well as those portals. And then we press F5 to come back to edit mode. That cycle of editing a little bit in the game and then pressing F5 to preview it and then coming back in to edit it and then previewing it, that's like a pretty dynamic cycle that you'll do quite a lot, especially when you're coding to test things out. So now we're back in edit mode. Let's go and have a look at our own islands. So if I can get everyone that's in this world with me, what I'd like you to do is navigate your drone to a different island. And I want you to then hover your cursor, one that particularly resonates you. I like this one here. So I'm going to hover my cursor over this one and then move your character there by pressing R on the keyboard. And that will teleport your character there. And it's sort of a way of claiming your island. You might not appear on everyone's screen immediately when you press R. So worth pressing tab to enter basic mode and have a little run around, and then press tab again and your position will be updated and you'll be there. So yeah, if you want to preview or test something, you don't necessarily have to jump into preview mode. If it's just environmental stuff, you can just use basic mode and run around your game world if you want to see if something's climbable or whatever. Anyway, cool. So that's I've chosen an island, and I can see everyone here has also chosen an island. So a little bit more about Crayta. The terrain, what I'm standing on, or what my character is standing on, that's made of voxels. Voxels are tiny cubes. In Crayta, they're about 25 centimeters cubed. So somewhere between 6 and 8 is, the general kind of height of someone. I mean, 2 meters high is pretty high, but that's sort of like the general sort of height. You can get an idea of the size of the voxels then. So a voxel is 25 by 25 by 25. And what we tend to do is build a terrain out of voxels for us to move around on, and then decorate it with meshes, which is what we'll do next. And then further decorate it with things like sounds, effects, and then changing the world settings. So all of that is to come in this workshop. That's sort of what we're going to go through. And all of that is a really good starting point for making games in Crayta. The second workshop this week, we'll be looking at what makes good games in Crayta. So we'll be looking at game design, a little bit of coding, a little bit more about aesthetics and art, and a little bit about what makes Crayta games special. So let's now look at the voxel tools. So you can see along the top of the screen, we've got all the different voxel tools. On the left-hand side, we have this library of voxel assets or voxel textures. So the way it works is we're going to use these tools and these voxel textures to paint our terrain and to build our terrain as well. So to start with, probably the most straightforward tool is the voxel pen. So you'll see this pencil icon that I'm hovering over at the top of the screen. If you click on that and then click on your terrain, you'll see that you place small cubes. So these aren't actually the smallest cube size we can go, but they give an idea about what sort of size a voxel is. Now, if I want to change the amount of cubes that I'm placing, I can use the mouse wheel. I can scroll up with the mouse wheel to add lots of cubes at once, or I can scroll down to add just one. And so we can use the pen tool as well as moving around to start sort of building whatever we want to build, really. And you can use You can also click and hold to sort of draw. Now, if I want those voxels to be a particular texture, I can go over here on the into the library on the left-hand side, and I could choose something like, let's say I want to make a hedge around my game, around my island. Which is something I don't know why, but I've not done that yet. But let's do that. So I've selected hedge by clicking on it, and you can see the selected voxel is down here in the viewport in the bottom left corner. And then I can click on my terrain and I can start building a hedge like this. So I'm placing voxels individually and I'm gradually building like this. So have a little go with that. And once you've sort of got to grips with the idea of placing voxels using the pen tool, you'll see that there's also other modifiers we can use to slightly change the behavior of the pen tool. There's the eraser. So here we can see that we've got add, which is what we've been using. But you can also use the eraser to remove voxels. So now if I click in the center cross of these voxels, you can see it's removing them. We've also got the little paintbrush, which doesn't add or remove voxels. It just changes the texture of whatever voxels are underneath it. So here we go. I can now paint this hedge on the floor. So that pen tool is sort of the cornerstone of sort of building in Crayta, but there are much faster ways to build things and to change the appearance of things. This is kind of like the bread and butter part. But let's start to start with, we're gonna build this garden, right? So I've started with a bit of a box hedge, but it's worth bearing in mind when I say garden, I don't mean garden. I mean some kind of area that's interesting, things to look at, a nice space to move through. So that could be a garden, but it could also be a sci-fi garden or a garden from hell or a mechanical garden or a beach. It doesn't have to be a traditional garden. I just use the term garden to imply, a nice serene area that we can look at. So if I want to fill my garden floor with something a little bit more appropriate than this white voxel, I can do that with the voxel fill tool. So this paint bucket here, which if you've used other image editing software or other 3D software, you might be familiar with a tool like this. Now, if I select it and hover over my terrain, you can see it highlights blue, and this is what will fill with whatever voxel I have selected. So I've got a box hedge selected at the moment. So if I click, you can see that that's now filled this entire voxel mesh with hedge. And you can see that it's several voxels thick, and it's filled the entire thing. If I drill down in here using the pen tool and the erase, you can see it's hedge all the way through. It's hedge. I don't particularly want this to be hedge, so I can undo. I can press Control Z, just like in lots of different software. Control Z will undo and will take us back to how things were before. So let's select the fill tool and choose something a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to go with this forest floor, and let's get some purple glowing mushrooms forest floor. So I'm using the fill tool, selecting the voxel texture I like. This one particularly is within a folder, and then I click on the floor and it fills it with beautiful voxels that have purple glowing mushrooms and grass. Similarly, there's lots of different ones. You can use the jungle grass or jungle plants, which is like slightly bigger, more like those juicy leaves. You could go in with some kind of bright neon. Let's make it, whoa, it's like super bright neon. You could go with more like shipping container metal if you were making, that mechanical sort of garden I was talking about. Maybe some of this. Ouch, hot. Lots of different things that you could use. I'm going to be fairly traditional. A nice meadow. I'm going to be fairly traditional, and I'm just going to go with some forest floor because I particularly like this style. But you can go with whatever makes you smile in your garden in the Sky Islands. Cool. So that's our fill tool and our pen tool. So pen tool's up here. We've got these modifiers here, and fill tool was this fill bucket. There's a few more interesting tools that we can use too. Another tool that I particularly like is the grow and erode tool. So these are really good if you've got a sort of natural environment. And in my instance, I've got this kind of grassy, gardeny, fantastical garden. So we can use the grow and erode tool to sort of build natural sort of areas on our garden. And the way this works is you click and hold on your terrain and it adds voxels. Now, if I just kept my cursor in one place, it will kind of just make voxels towards the camera. So if I'm directly on top, it will just make almost like a column of voxels. If I'm over here, it might make more like a hill. So worth bearing that in mind. The position of the camera is important when it comes to grow and erode. One way to use these that I particularly like is almost just like gently using it, almost like brush strokes, to kind of to sort of soften the edges of our cube-like island in the sky. So what we're going to do is use the grow and erode tool just really around the perimeter to soften it up a bit so it doesn't look quite so boxy. So the grow tool, as you can see, grows voxels away from the voxel mesh that you're clicking on. And if I go back to my character here, it feels a lot nicer to have these kinds of edges to our box rather than it being so boxy. The other option is to use the erode tool. So the grow tool was this one with the little triangle with the arrow underneath. The erode tool is this one with the triangle pointing down and the arrow above. And that does the exact opposite. You could probably guess what that does, but let's have a little look. So if I click on the erode tool, I can come in here and just start eroding edges of my map. So maybe over here, rather than it being quite a straight line, I can start eroding in here. So you can see a mixture of the grow and erode tools can really start to make a way more natural kind of landscape, natural environment. Couple more voxel tools that I think it's worth playing around with. So one of them particularly that I like is the extrude tool. And the extrude tool is quite specific use cases, but I use it all the time. Let's say I want to build a wall. So I'm going to choose a brick. Go up here. There's a load of bricks. I'm going to choose a nice garden wall brick. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's more like a cottagey brick. Yeah, let's go with this. Like an old cottage brick wall over here. So I'll place that, just one lot of that in my terrain using the pen tool. And then if I use the extrude tool, what this does is it selects a face of those voxels. You can see it's just selecting one face. And then if I click and hold and pull away from those voxels, you can see it sort of extrudes some voxels. It's kind of like you're pulling it and then it's backfilling the voxels. It feels way more like malleable, more like clay, more like you're pulling apart a piece of clay. But it's not going to run out like normal clay because it will keep adding voxels for you. So we can use this method to sort of make a wall. And if you think this is, it's a bit dull, come in with your erode tool. You could take some edges off and make it almost like a damaged wall. The other thing you can do is, if you want, you can remove a voxel and use the extrude tool to actually remove voxels. So pulling that removed section around as well. Depends on what you want to do. You can go towards or away. And if you go towards the face, it will remove voxels. If you go away from the face, it will add voxels. So that's a really nice tool. And it's especially useful for, here I might decide, actually, I only want them to be one voxel thick. Don't have to come in and add individual voxels using the pen tool. I can use the extrude tool to just manipulate that shape and get the effect that I want. Another tool that I'm not going to look at too much is the shape tool. And this allows me to draw shapes. So the way this works is I could also have made this wall using a shape tool. So the way this works is you click and hold on your terrain and pull away from where you clicked. And essentially I can draw a rectangle and then let go and then select this blue handle and pull up, and I can essentially make a 3D cuboid. There's obviously other shapes as well. If I wanted to, I could make, a column or a sphere. And you don't have to redraw it and then select the shape you want. You can, start by drawing the shape and then decide what shape you want it to be or what geometry you want it to be. So there's lots of different ways of using the shape tool. If I want to keep this, I can press enter and it will add it, or I can press escape and it will remove that tool. So there's a few different ways of working here, and it's kind of one of those tools, like a lot of creative software and a lot of creative tools. There's lots of different ways of doing the same thing, and it's all about you finding the way that works for you. I spend a lot of my time building using the pen tool and the extrude tool, and then maybe coming in with some cube shaped grow and then some spherical shaped erode to make kind of natural landscapes. But you kind of need to choose a little bit of practice, and you'll find your own sort of creative practice. And what I love about Crayta and our community is that there's so many variations of how different people work, that there's lots of different results from that. I'm going to have a little wander around and see what other people are up to. Oh, someone's gone into preview mode. Let's just go back into edit mode, if that's okay. So I'm just going to have a little look around at what people have been up to. So over here, we've got this beautiful area here where there's almost like a muddy path over to this brick wall. Wow, over here we've got what feels like a meadow in the desert, maybe some kind of oasis. Is that a maze? Amazing. I think someone keeps going into preview mode. That's fine. I'll use the drone to move around. To open photo mode, you press P on the keyboard, and then you will have access to your drone, and you can fly your drone around in that way. So we can have a look around. It looks like there's a space star one over there. Lots of different vibes we're going for here. I think there's quite a lot of very garden-y vibes in the game that we're working in, but you might not be working in a garden. You might be playing more in various different things. I quite like this one. This is looking really nice over here. There's a robot. There's a robot involved. Well, that brings me nicely on to what we're going to look at next, which is the next thing in our library. We're going to have a look at the meshes in our library. So far, we've been working in our game with voxels and using the voxel tools. It's really nice to see what you can accomplish using just the voxels, and it's lovely to see what my colleagues have been up to whilst I've been talking about the different voxel tools. The next thing we're going to have a look at is meshes. I'm going to take a quick sip of water. I should say, again, if you've got any questions, if something's coming up or you're having you're experiencing something, or if you're really enjoying yourself, don't hesitate to let us know in the chat or in Discord, discord.gg/Crayta. Head over to the workshops channel and let us know how you're getting on. Feel free to post up screenshots of what you're working on or how it's looking so far. That would be really cool to see. And get creative, go for it with the voxel tools. You could pause now if you like. You can pause the stream and keep going with the voxel tools, exploring all of those different sort of tools that we've looked at and maybe some of the ones we haven't. Or if you would like, you can carry on with us as we explore the mesh library. So to access the mesh library, there's a few different ways. You can click on this little drop down here, and this has a list of all the different sections of the library, and you can click on meshes. Or if you like, you can also click on this cube. So the same list is down here in icon form, and you can choose one of these. So click on this little cube here, and this opens the mesh library. This could be a little bit overwhelming because there's so many. I mean, there's everything. You could have a mannequin. You could have a piece of corn. You could have a pirate ship sail. There's lots of different things. Because this is what I was talking about when I said there's the battle pass, right? Where you can unlock customizable outfits for your character and hairdos and beards and all of that sort of stuff. But there's also, on the other side of the battle pass, there's all this new sort of voxel textures that you get along the same theme, and meshes as well. So our most recent battle pass has been Harrowing High. And if this feels a little bit overwhelming, this big list of meshes here, you can use the tags to choose a particular type of mesh. Like, let's say I wanted just trees. I could choose the tree tag, or I could search for trees up here. Or, to bring it back to the battle passes that I was talking about, I can use the tags to go to our most recent battle pass, Harrowing High, which is kind of a Halloween-themed school type situation. So if I click on Harrowing High, that then shows me all of the meshes which have been tagged with Harrowing High, which is the season these would have come out with, which I think was early in October. And then I can use this to sort of, I could make some kind of spooky school, and I could start here with Harrowing High assets, and then I might, have a look at if there's any other tags that are sort of similar to that, or maybe mine is sort of a school in space. So choose the outer space ones and start adding some of those in, mixing and matching between some of the different battle passes that have happened and some of the assets that are available. So that's sort of how to navigate the meshes part. I mean, there was also a fishing pack that came out in October. So if you want to make anything to do with fishing, I mean, you've seriously covered. Or pirates, if you want to have a look at Cursed Galleons, this is serious pirate battle pass. There's so many great things in here. You can have like a full pirate ship mast. And this brings me on to an important point. Some of these meshes are really big, like this pirate ship mast. And some of them can be really small, like the manacles are quite small. And so it's all about experimenting and adding them into your game world. To add them into your game world, I'm going to add this nice looking lantern here. To add them into your game world, you click on a mesh, and then you click in your game world, and that will add it. And you'll see that you still have it under your cursor, so you can keep adding more of the same things. This is really useful if you want to populate your game world with lots of lanterns, which I do. So I'm going to do that. So you can see you can add things like that. If you're done adding lanterns or whatever thing that you're adding to your game world, you can press escape, and that will get you back to your select tool. You could also click on the select tool up here, and that will get you back there. So worth bearing that in mind. When you've clicked on a mesh, it gets you into sort of the place mesh tool. And then to get back to select tool, press escape, and that will bring you back to this point. Once you've placed a mesh in your game world, you can move it around using these little handles. So use the select tool to select it, and then click and hold on the arrows to move it around. So this gives me ultimate control. I can move it in just this direction, or I can move it in just this direction, or I could move it up if I like. I can also move it in two directions just by clicking on the square that joins the two handles together. So this will move it on the floor, for example, by clicking on this. So that's how to move it. If you have placed a mesh, let's click on this one. If you've placed a mesh and you want to rotate it, you can choose the rotate tool up here. You can see it's where the modifiers are for the pen tool and for the other ones. Or if you want hotkeys, you can press F2, and that will bring you to rotate. And then you can click and drag on these different circles, and that will help you rotate it. If it's snapping, like mine is snapping to 45 degrees, you can change all of that up there. If you don't want it to snap, you can hold shift, and then that will mean it smoothly rotates. So there you go. So I can now smoothly rotate it. Or I can uncheck rotate snap, and then that's the same as me holding shift. It just cancels that snap. It removes that snap. So it's quite nice if you're placing meshes. It's quite nice to sort of give them a little bit of rotation, just so it's not super like gritty. It's quite nice to give it a little bit of, like everything should be at a jaunty angle, if you ask me. I don't know. I just feel like jaunty angles are really in at the moment. But don't quote me on that. Before I go and have a look at everyone else's, I'm going to draw a quick garden path from one portal to the other using the pen tool and the paintbrush modifier. And in the meantime, if you've got any questions or you're not sure about something, don't hesitate to post them in the chat. You can post them on Discord. I'll do a short Q&A in a few minutes as well. Yeah, don't hesitate to post them up, and I'll answer them as best I can. So yeah, you're more than welcome to do that. If the workshop concludes and you still have questions, or something comes up while you're working or making something, then the Discord is a great place to ask questions. There's an Ask Anything channel where you can literally, if you're not sure where to post a question, post it in there. But there's also specific channels for things like help with code, help with art, help with lighting, all sorts of things. So I've drawn a little voxel pathway. I've added some lanterns. Maybe I'll add a tree or two. Let's get a tree, big jungle tree. I really like the way the shadows, the shadows that get cast from this, especially if it was like at night or something. Well, there wouldn't be shadows at night, but if the lanterns were lit at sort of dusk or dawn and that shadow was there, that'd be really cool. We can play around with that in a minute. Oh, it looks like that tree's kind of reclaiming that brick wall. Yeah, nice. Let's have a little zoom around, see what's going on. So, we've got a futuristic tree zone with hanging plants. I love it. That's really, and aerials. I love it. That's really cool. So we've got that one. We've got this one. This one's looking very similar to mine. I like this one though. This is nice. Look, there's garden furniture. There's a barrel and a till. Is this an outdoor sort of cafe or something? That's really cool. Love that. That's the original world over there. What we've got going on over here? This is like a desert oasis. Oh, someone's found the rocks. This is looking lovely. Yeah. Using rocks around the edge like that is really nice. That's cool. And then this one, wait, we've looked at that one already. Oh, it's also got a cherry blossom in the middle. This feels like there's a story here. I don't know what that story is, but I like it. It's already telling a story. And this one's like a tree stump as well. So yeah, lots of different beautiful looking gardens. Really nice. So yeah, that's really cool. Just to sort of talk about some of the other tools that you might see in Crayta, feel free to explore these in a little bit more depth. So this part, I'm just going to kind of show you some of the things that are available without diving into using them like quite so much, but using them is a great way, and experimenting with them is a great way to sort of learn a little bit more about Crayta. And if, like I said, if you do get stuck, then don't hesitate to post questions in the Discord or reach out to me in the workshops channel, and I'll help you however I can. The cool thing is you can also jump into each other's games. So if you get stuck, you can always share your game link with, someone who, like a community moderator or someone that's helping you, and they can jump into your game and help you out and all of that kind of thing. Yeah, so before we move on, one other tool that I should have mentioned is with these lanterns, there was move. So these are meshes, so I can move these meshes. I can rotate these meshes, F2, or click on the rotate. There's also scaling. So I can click on scale, and then I can, scale them in one or all dimensions. I quite like, you could make a really big lantern. And then again, there's scale snap as well. So it's snapping to certain sizes. If I hold shift, it will smoothly change size. So let's say, for example, I want this lantern, but I want some smaller lanterns hanging from the tree. I might move some of these up here like this. There you go. Don't forget, jaunty angle. Yeah. So, and then I can run around my character, and there's some nice small lanterns, but it's good that they match, it's nice and thematic and in keeping with each other. Anyway, some of the other tools. How do you get these separate islands? Can you make them bigger? Great question. So the way that you get these separate islands, I don't know if you were here at the beginning, but you can go to create, and if you go to the blueprints, create a new game, click on create a new game, and you get to this point. If you search for workshop, you can see that I have my sky islands here, which is like a specific blueprint that we've used for this workshop. To make them, to make them from the starter template, you can create new voxel meshes. If you click on the voxel mesh tab down here, you can click create new voxel mesh. Let's just call it terrain 7. Wait, we've probably got a terrain 7. Let's call it, I don't know, example voxel mesh. Very specific name. Click OK. And then I can place that in my scene by clicking on that voxel mesh and clicking in my game world. And there we have it. I've got a separate voxel mesh. So these things, these islands, can move around. If you click on the actual island, you'll see that the move gizmo pops up, and they can rotate and all the rest of it, just like the meshes. So great question. Thank you for the question. Hopefully that's answered it. But yeah, please don't hesitate to ask more if you want on that. Some of the other tools that we have available, shapes. So you're not limited to voxels and meshes. You can also use shapes to add things into your game world and to craft your own things. Let's say I wanted to make, for some reason, a snowman. You can do the classic, 1, 2. This is rapid snowman development. I'm using copy paste there, Control C, Control V. There we go. There's a snowman in my forest garden. It's absolutely massive snowman, but that's fine. I can stand on here and I'm nearly as tall as him. So you can use shapes to make snowmen as well as other things if you have a little bit more time. And also I should say, go back to these meshes. You can use these meshes in lots of different ways, right? So you don't have to think of this as this altar, although that is super cool. You could, rotate it, scale it in a certain way, add things to it like this. Let's scale that and scale the whole lot down to sort of hand-sized. And you've got some kind of weird alien gun. I don't know. You can kind of do whatever you want. I don't know what that is. But combining meshes in ways they're not supposed to be used is part of the creativity in Crayta. Lots of people kit bash things. It's called kit bashing. And it means essentially take a mesh and rather than thinking of it as, oh, this is a lantern, this is not a lantern. This is just a configuration of those materials in that way. And how else could you use that? Could you join two together end on end and do something more interesting with it? There's lots of different ways you can explore it. Over here, we've got what looks like a bucket on a stick, which is it a bucket on some water? Oh, it's a bucket pouring water. Oh, that's looking rad. Okay. Just quickly, because we're running low on time, shapes, effects. If you want to add effects, I strongly recommend you do this in advanced mode because it's a lot easier. But let's say you want to add some fire. Let's add the fireplace. I can click on that effect, click in my game world, and you can see it there. If I select off that effect, it will stop the effect. So I need to click on that effect for it to be working. And fireplace is especially cool because we can sort of, start to play around with the size of the emitter, and I could essentially start a small fire. It's not a small fire anymore, is it? It's quite a large fire. So we've got effects, sounds. In sounds, we have ambient sounds of things like birds tweeting, that kind of stuff. But there's also music, and it's like amazing scores by our music director at Unit 2, as well as sound effects for things like guns, mobile phones, explosions, all of that sort of stuff too. We've also got, in the primitives tab, lights, NPCs, if you want to add characters to your world. And unlike your character, your customization options, which are locked depending on your XP, the NPCs can be customized fully. You can choose lots of different outfits, every outfit that's kind of available to anyone in Crayta. All of the outfits are available to the NPCs. So you can add NPCs, you can add lights, and some of the more advanced features, things like cameras and stuff like that, which we're not going to touch on today. Right, before we close up, the last thing to look at is the templates. Templates are groups of scripts, meshes, sounds, whatever. In our instance, they are collectibles. So I can use this collectible template and I can add some more coins to the area that my garden is. So more collectible coins and essentially reward people for visiting my island. And if you're working on this game with lots of other people, it's a really good idea to up the number of concurrent collectibles, which means make lots of coins appear from 1 at a time to, let's say, 20. So we've been working on our islands, and hopefully they've been, we've got some different collectibles. Just while the other team members add collectibles, I'll just draw your attention to the world settings, where we can do things like add some nice pretty fog to hide some of the islands and sort of hide the very bottom of the ground and make it feel a little bit more ethereal. We can also in here do some cool post-processing with things like tilt shift, so it feels quite dreamlike and that kind of thing. You can also change, the time of day. If you wanted to make it night, you can do that. Spooky nighttime, change the direction of the sun. All of that stuff is available in here. Before I close for questions, let's test the game. Press F5, start previewing, and here we can wait for the end of the lobby, and then it's a game. So we're going to collect some stuff and visit each other's islands. It looks great with the fog, like sort of the trees coming through the fog there. That looks really cool. So yeah, I can see some coins. And then some of the islands are going to be empty because we didn't get a chance to do all of them. We did one each. And some of them are going to have a lot more going on. I like this one. That's really nice. Yeah, so if you haven't considered it yet, I urge you to join us for the workshop on Thursday. So it'll be the same sort of time, 4 o'clock. Except it's 2 hours, and we're going to go a little bit more in depth into what makes great games in Crayta. And we'll particularly be looking at kind of the criteria for the Mega Jam and the sort of things that the judging panel for the Mega Jam look for in games and how to sort of achieve those. If you don't know about the Mega Jam and you joined late, that's totally cool. The Mega Jam starts next Monday at 11 a.m. It's a big game jam with $200,000 worth of prizes that will be open to everyone that submits. Don't forget to read the rules before you participate in the jam. And yeah, if you have any questions about that, don't hesitate to jump on the Discord. To access our community, discord.gg/Crayta is full of lovely, very, very friendly people, very creative people who just want to make cool things, collaborate and play games and all of that sort of stuff. You can also join our Facebook group, which is the official Crayta community, and on there you'll find more info too. Yeah, any questions? Also, yeah, I'll chuck in some more stuff to do in the workshops channel in Discord. So if you wanted to, run through our basic creation course, which you can do in advanced mode if you like, you can do that. And if you want to kind of, you can run with that. That's on YouTube. You can find that. If you go to the channel for this one. There's not loads of questions here. I've got one here which says, will workshops be recorded? This workshop is being recorded and it will be available afterwards. Don't forget that this stream is not publicly listed. You signed up for the workshop, so you got first sort of look at the stream. So you might need to go back to the stream, but it will be recorded and it will probably be posted up in a public way at some point in the future, so that it's easier to access for everyone that's been on the workshop. Don't hesitate to reach out if you get stuck. It's been really cool. Thank you so much for joining and for all of your enthusiasm. I have to say a big thank you to the team here, who have been amazing and made some wonderful things, even though we can't really see them anymore because I filled the whole area with fog. So we can't really do that. Cool. Well, thank you very much for joining me. My name's been Andy. You can find all of us on the Discord. We hang out there. Don't forget to sign up for the Mega Jam. You can do that. We'll be posting a link to the Mega Jam where you can sign up in the chat in just a second. And don't forget to sign up for this Thursday. There's another workshop this Thursday. So sign up for that one. It's the same place that you signed up for this one. And that one we're going to explore in a bit more depth some of the criteria around the Mega Jam and how to make something really incredibly awesome and submit it to the Mega Jam. So it's been great to have you all here. I really appreciate your enthusiasm and joining, and I look forward to seeing and playing some of your amazing games in Crayta. Don't hesitate to share them on the Discord. Don't forget to post them, and I'll see you all soon. Take care. Bye.